Hi guys, Dr. Rob Barrington here with some more nutrition advice. A lot of people ask me about supplements that could help them build muscle. A lot of people are training in the gym. They want to build skeletal muscle, and there's a lot of information on the internet claiming that particular products might be beneficial in this regard. It's a very confusing topic, and much of the information, or I could say misinformation, is put out there by the supplement companies and their paid agents, who are really working to take your hard-earned money and place it in their bank accounts. I've tried to simplify this, and I'll give my opinion on the best muscle building supplements. But if we simplify this down, I think there are three categories of supplement that are useful for building muscle. The first category would be the creatine products. The second category would be the protein products, and the third category would be stimulants. Now, outside of those three categories, there's really not much evidence that any of the supplements actually cause much muscle growth at all. I've excluded anything from that list that you would take for general health, such as chromium. I believe you should be taking chromium whether you're training in the gym or not. There are many substances that may, over the long term, obviously help build muscle because they improve your health, but those are general health supplements, and so I've excluded those from that list. I'm talking about supplements really purely for building muscle on top of a base of having good health. So creatine, I've talked about before. Creatine, even since the early papers in the 1990s, has been shown to increase phosphocreatine stores in skeletal muscle. And that has an ergogenic effect because phosphocreatine is a buffer for ATP depletion, and that means that the myocytes have more energy, and it really allows you to get that extra rep, those extra 2 reps out, and that does have over the course of a cycle of training, that does have an effect on building a stronger muscle. So creatine, I think, has been proved through the scientific literature to be an effective supplement. The best form of creatine, as I've mentioned in one of my other videos, is probably just the pure creatine monohydrate powder. And if you take it with some kind of glucose drink, because you need to really stimulate your insulin release while you take creatine in order to make sure that the creatine is driven into the skeletal muscle. Creatine also has cognitive effects, so and it may have other health benefits as well. So I think creatine, if we look in the nutritional literature, has been shown to be beneficial. So I would say that's one of the effective supplements you could take if you wanted to improve your skeletal muscle mass. If we turn to protein powders, the most common protein that is associated with resistance training is probably whey protein. Now, whey protein does have some biochemical effects which are interesting other than its muscle building effects. For example, it is able to stimulate the immune system because of some of the peptides it contains. But when we look at whey protein and we look at some of the other proteins, is there actually anything special about whey protein? Does it have any specific special muscle building effects? Well, the one advantage of whey protein is it's quite quickly absorbed, which means that the branched chain amino acids it contains can get into the plasma quickly. But if we did an experiment where we took a group of athletes and we gave them whey protein, and we took another group of athletes and we gave them casein, for example, over the course of a year, if the protein amounts in the diet were the same, would the whey protein group gain more weight than the casein group? I would suggest no. I don't think there's any evidence to say that when you put whey protein up against other proteins, you do see different biochemical effects, but whether you actually see any improvements in actual skeletal muscle gain is controversial. I would suggest that whey protein is a good dietary supplement simply because it's a cheap source of easily consumable protein, and if you're consuming whey protein, you're more likely to hit your target per day of the amount of total protein that you need. Yes, obviously whole proteins are digested more slowly, but I really don't see any evidence that there's anything special about whey protein in terms of causing muscle growth. Obviously, the supplement companies that would sell whey protein would disagree with me, and they'll be able to find, animal studies and cell culture studies that have been done and use that as evidence. But if we look at human studies, physiology studies, and we look at trainers that you would expect to take whey protein, I don't think there's really any good compelling evidence to say that whey protein has any special properties other than the fact that it is a good source of protein. So yes, whey protein is great, it's nice and cheap, and you can get it off the internet quite readily, but other sources of protein are obviously important as well. But I would stick to the whey protein simply because it's quickly absorbed, and it's generally quite neutral in its taste. It mixes easily with water, for example. It has a lot of properties that make it useful in terms of being able to increase your protein intake, and I see that as the best advantage for whey protein. If we turn then to the stimulants, stimulants again have been shown to increase the strength of athletes, in particular lifts. Caffeine is obviously banned by international bodies from athletics for the reason that it is an effective ergogenic aid. We can look at other stimulants such as ephedrine and all its similar chemicals that you can get in various powders and pills. And yes, stimulants, a cup of coffee, caffeine tablets, they do increase your strength output, in particular lifts, and obviously that has a skeletal muscle stimulating effect. So there is good evidence in the nutritional literature that taking caffeine before an event will improve your performance. And if you're lifting more weights and you can get that extra rep out because you've taken a stimulant, obviously that's going to cause a greater adaptation in the skeletal muscle, which may cause strength gains and hypertrophy gains. So I think there is again good evidence for the stimulants. Ephedrine has some unique properties, particularly on those people who are trying to lose body fat, because it does appear to prevent the breakdown of skeletal muscle, particularly on those people that take a reduced amount of calories, and that's probably something to do with the beta receptors, the beta adrenergic receptors that it stimulates. There is some kind of cellular effect there that prevents the catabolism of skeletal muscle. So that's actually quite a useful supplement, although now it's not possible to buy it from shops. Although obviously if you went back into the 1990s, you could just walk into a shop and buy tablets of ephedrine. So depending on the country that you're from, you may not be able to still use ephedrine, but you can use caffeine. There are other stimulants that claim various things. Read the label, see which one works for you. Caffeine is obviously the tried and tested one. Ephedrine is a popular supplement amongst bodybuilders before training. And Ultimate Orange was obviously a product that was made originally with ephedrine in it, and I think it had caffeine in it and some carbohydrates, and that was very popular as well. But there are copies of that on the market, although they generally don't contain ephedrine anymore. So those people that perhaps don't know a lot about training and want to go out, they want to build some skeletal muscle, they've joined a gym, you're looking at maybe taking some supplements, try to ignore the rhetoric from the supplement companies. They want to take your money. I've always said that if you want to, that the real test of a supplement is, if I take that supplement now, would I gain any extra muscle in a year's time than I would if I didn't take it? And I really don't see many of the supplements on the market actually providing those gains. For the neophyte, the novice, really hard training and good eating and being healthy is the best way to gain muscle. Once you get to a certain intermediate stage and you need a little bit of an extra kick, you can start to think about taking creatine and maybe some extra protein and also some a stimulant before you train on your hardest workouts. But if you're just starting out, really maintaining your health is the best way that you can gain muscle. You need about 1 gram of protein per pound of lean body weight, and as long as you're eating a high quality diet, and as long as you have a positive nitrogen balance, which means you have enough protein and you have enough energy to be able to resynthesize your glycogen and restore your energy reserves between training, you should gain muscle. You need to train hard, but you don't want to get injured. You need to have adequate rest between your training sessions, and if you have good nutrition, that's really going to provide you with good health, and that's going to provide you with the best basis for gaining muscle. On top of that, if you want to go and look down the supplement route, those 3 categories of supplements, the creatine supplements, the whey protein supplements and other proteins as well, and also perhaps the stimulants, are 3 of the categories that I would say would actually provide some benefit, but a lot of the other things on the market really are just hype. And to be honest, I'd save my money and I would spend your money on a good quality food so that you can maintain your health, and that will provide you with the basis for gaining skeletal muscle in the long term.